Now, Chris Duel.
It is Friday. Welcome to the weekend officially, although we begin it on a Thursday, but that's cool. We understand that most of you begin it on a Friday, so one way or another, the weekend is here. Phoenix takes game number 2 of the NBA Finals. Astros lose to the Oakland A's last night, but they take the series 2-1. Would have been nice to have swept that series, but they'll move on to a 3-game series against the New York Yankees before getting ready for the All-Star break. 3 games left for the Astros against the Yankees before the All-Star break. Team USA in basketball will face Nigeria in an exhibition game tomorrow. Lots to talk about in the world of sports on this Friday, July 9th. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon, Salty, Sweeney. We're going to give away $1,000 in just a few minutes. We do it in the morning at 6:20 and at 7:20 a.m. It's the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. We have a live video feed, a number of ways for you to access it, either via Facebook Live on AM 1300, The Zone's Facebook page, Ticket 760's Facebook page. There's a YouTube link. There's a Twitch link. Lots of ways to get involved there. You can dial us up on the phone lines, 800-707-9760. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, how are you on this Friday morning?
Somehow I'm dry because it's still raining, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm glad we have sports on because at least I can do something while I'm inside, but it's getting old.
It's a little crazy, this rain throughout much of June, and here we are 9 days into July, and the rain keeps coming.
And I don't like what it does to drivers on the road. I thought I was going to get to work early today. No.
Yeah.
I got stuck behind the slowest people ever. Not that there was anyone else on the road for them to be slow about. Just, going 40 and a 60.
Well, but if you don't slow down in the rain, then you hit people. Would you rather be hit by a 70-mile-an-hour driver who doesn't know how to drive in the rain, or would you rather be hit by somebody driving 40?
No, you're supposed to go the speed limit like you always go. You're
not when it rains.
You normally do.
Not when it rains.
You're supposed to go 40.
Not when it rains.
That is just as dangerous as speeding.
Yeah, love you, but when it is raining, you're supposed to slow it down a little bit.
If it's raining and you can't drive in the rain, don't get in the car.
Wow. There you have it. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, don't be on the road when it's raining and she's driving.
You're my way. I have places to be.
Yeah.
And things to be on time, too.
Very nice. Very, very nice. So we have the Phoenix Suns winning again last night. Of course, Milwaukee was in this position with the Brooklyn Nets down 0-2, but Brooklyn ran into a lot of injuries, so I don't know that the Bucks can count on that. Early in this game, the Bucks points in the paint were something like 20-0 Bucks. The Bucks came out playing very, very well and looked to be dominating this game, but the Suns were something like, 11 for 11 from three-point country. The Suns were just crazy early on from three, and as well as the Bucks played early, the Bucks could not separate from the Phoenix Suns, and Suns up 2-0. We have a shot at a sweep. This series shifts to Milwaukee, so who knows? It could happen.
I think we're seeing the difference between Giannis and a guy like Kevin Durant. When Giannis goes out and scores 42, it's like the rest of his team says, oh, I think he's got this. Because Chris Middleton, again, just disappeared last night. He's up and down. But a guy like Kevin Durant, he goes out and performs really well. He lifts up his other teammates. His other teammates contribute to his massive nights. And in turn, they get wins out of them. If Giannis is out there doing what he did last night with 42 points while he's coming back from his injury, I see no hope for them at this point. I really don't. Even though they're going back home, maybe they get one. But at this point, I would not be surprised if the Suns complete this in 4. Where's the Suns in 4 guy? Where is he? He was right all along.
He may be right. Probably the Bucks grab one in Milwaukee. And even if you're the Suns, you would kind of rather, I mean, you want to get a sweep if you can get a sweep, but it would be cool to win game 5 because you would do that in front of your home fans in Phoenix who have never enjoyed an NBA championship. So they have been long suffering. So that would be cool. But yeah, I agree with all of your points about Giannis's supporting cast. First of all, a tip of the hat to Giannis coming off that, what looked like a horrendous season-ending injury when his knee went the wrong way, the way it's not supposed to go. And so many people thought torn ACL, adios amigo. For him to go 20-17 in game 1, and last night, as you mentioned, he gets 42 points, another double-double, 42 and 12, and he needed some help. And we've talked about Chris Middleton. There's been some great games by Chris Middleton in these finals, but last night was not one of them. 11 points for Chris Middleton in 41 minutes. Middleton at 41 minutes, Giannis at 40. So Middleton played more minutes than anybody else. 5 of 16 from the field for Chris Middleton. Just that's not going to get it done. He was 1 of 6 from three-point country, a minus 15 in the plus minus. That was the worst plus minus on the floor for the Milwaukee Bucks last night. And that's just not going to cut it. You've talked about PJ Tucker, his Longhorn roots, and obviously you're not counting on PJ Tucker to be a big guy in the supporting cast, but he's a starter. And, he gives you 35 minutes. You hope for more than 7 points overall from PJ Tucker. That's all he scored last night. So, yeah, these Milwaukee Bucks are reeling a little bit as this series will shift back to Milwaukee this weekend.
And now that we've gone through game 2, who's your leader for MVP right now? Because game 1, it was clearly Chris Paul. But Devin Booker, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Plus, he's like, if you're the NBA, you don't know that there's that question in the air of whether Chris Paul comes back. So for the NBA, who is always looking for reasons for people to tune in, do you give a guy like Devin Booker the MVP so that people are like, I'm going to tune into that guy next season?
It's a great question.
Not only has the dude been amazing on the floor, but I don't know if you've seen his style lately. He has been dressing to the nines, walking. I mean, he put on he's had like an all white ensemble, and he did like an all black suit ensemble, and then he's been driving in these old school cars. Like from the time he leaves his house, he's in game mode, and he's all about presentation.
Now, I haven't seen the cars. What kind of old school cars are you talking about? What type of cars are they?
I'm not the one to ask. They're nice. They're nice old school cars.
Okay.
And they're probably worth a good amount, of
yeah.
I don't know if it's like a sponsored deal or what, but I don't think we typically don't think about the cars, right? It's all
no
the outfit and so he's a trendsetter, this guy.
You raise a great point, and we'll, the future of the NBA and who's hot and who's the next big thing. Is it Devin Booker? Would you consider that if it's close between Devin Booker and Chris Paul? Certainly the MVP of game 1 was Chris Paul, and certainly you can argue the MVP of game 2 at 31 points to lead the Suns in scoring was Devin Booker. Chris Paul, 23 points last night. But I got a feeling, Shannon, it's going to be kind of a lifetime achievement award for Chris Paul. I think if it's close, it goes to Chris Paul. Now, if Devin Booker continues to take over, and we've seen him do that earlier in the playoffs.
Right, without Chris Paul.
Yeah, then he could emphatically. And Chris Paul, a guy who notoriously gets knocked out of playoff games for injuries, can he give you another number 2 games in Milwaukee to kind of close this out and become the MVP? So, I mean, gosh, we've talked about this with so many injuries throughout these playoffs. Even though this could end in 2 more games if the Suns can sweep in 4, I'm not taking anything for granted. Certainly not with Chris Paul, a guy who has been injury prone.
Yeah, I think they should share it. I don't know if that's been done before with Finals MVP trophy, but they should share it.
Yeah,
takes
me back to the Cowboys in Super Bowl 12 where you had co-MVPs. I know it's a different sport, but back then it was Harvey Martin and Randy White. of the Cowboys as your MVPs of Super Bowl 12? It's a great question. I don't think in my memory, I don't remember co-MVPs in the NBA, but anything is possible. I think you could certainly do it. All right, it is 6:20. We're going to do this twice this morning, but a bunch of times throughout the day. In fact, 12 times throughout the day on the 20s. It's the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. Your chance to win $1,000. In fact, over 4 weeks, $228,000 is being given away. You're going to get a keyword right here, right now, a place to text that keyword, and you are in the running for $1,000. Here comes the keyword.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword dollar to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's dollar to 200-200.
Dollar to 200-200. Good luck. We'll do this again at 7:20. And just outlining what's coming up for you on the show this morning, just after 7 o'clock. We like to check in with him on Fridays. And as we move closer to football season, Dallas Cowboys training camp beginning on July 22nd, which is 13 days away. Paul Alexander, Coach A, who, among other things, is a Dallas Cowboys historian and analyst and freak, loves the Cowboys. So we'll talk Cowboys, NFL, and more with Paul Alexander. And James Allen of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Shannon, he's going to be interesting. He's in Las Vegas. He's going to join us just after 8 o'clock. So, which, of course, Vegas time will be just after 6 a.m. Vegas. I mean, right now in our time zone, it's 6:22. No big deal for you and me. But if you're out partying all night in Vegas, he says he will be able to answer the bell. We shall see with James Allen in the 8 o'clock hour.
I mean, I'm cool just talking about Vegas. I mean, if he's doing Vegas the way you're supposed to do Vegas, he's just still up. He won't go until after we talk to him.
Exactly. Yeah, me too. I'm wondering, different people do Vegas different ways.
Right.
You know, and James Allen is kind of a big deal. So, I mean, he certainly has the resources to do Vegas in a big way.
Places.
Yeah. When I go to Vegas with my wife, we don't gamble. When I was younger, I used to gamble and lose everything. And I finally realized I'm never going to win at gambling, but I like the shows. I like the vibe. I like the food. So, you know, we tend to just go to Vegas and see shows, and I will go in and out of Vegas for a weekend and not gamble one quarter. I must be a total freak to go to Vegas and not gamble at all.
See, I've only been once, and I was 20, and me being the rule stickler, did not gamble. I'm not knowledgeable enough on the games. I know ahead of time that's just trouble.
Yeah. My first time in Vegas, and it's what ruined me. I go to Vegas. I was maybe 23 years old or something. I lived in LA at the time, and so it's maybe a 3 or a 4 hour drive. So it was middle of the night, and this happens a lot when you live in Los Angeles. You'll be out partying with friends, and then somebody will go, "Hey, let's go to Vegas," and it's like 11 o'clock at night. So you go, and you can get there by like 3 a.m, and so anyway, somebody said, "Hey, man," so I started playing slots for a quarter, and they go, no. You can't win by playing quarter slots. You need to play dollar slots. So I said, all right, give me some dollars. And within like 4 minutes, I hit a jackpot on the dollar slot. It was like $800. And all these like silver dollars or ding, 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 ding are coming. And this was like my first few minutes in Vegas in my life. And I'm like, this is great. It's fun. It's easy. It's win, win, win. That $800 was gone in about 40 minutes. It's like, okay, I can do this again. Ding, ding. Let me, at $3 a shot, load up the slot machine. I was, by the way, when we were driving home back to Los Angeles at the time, we were like halfway from Vegas to Los Angeles in the middle of the desert, pulling over at a gas station, digging in the car seat for like quarters so that we could maybe get a get a soft drink on the way home. It was, and that's usually my experience. I'll win a little and then lose everything. And I finally decided, okay, gambling is not for me. I'm not good at it, and it destroys me. So I just go and don't gamble now.
Yeah, it sucks you in. My grandparents actually own a slot machine, so as a kid, I would always sit there at their house and just play that over and over again.
Yeah.
So I feel like I got my fix of pulling the handle, because there is something about pulling that handle.
Yes. And when you win, it's addictive. It's like, whoa, and you get a rush. I mean, I understand people who have gambling addictions.
Oh, yeah.
I felt that rush when it's working. And then when it kind of falls, you go, okay, I can get it back. I can get it back. And there's a reason why you have the huge gazillion-dollar buildings in Vegas. They were built on the money of losers like me.
Yeah, I'd probably do sports betting before I did any like table games or slot machines.
And that's all kinds of fun. And that's the other thing. You walk into a sports book in Vegas, and it's like mission control.
Oh, yeah.
The big scoreboards, a gazillion big screen TVs. People have bet money on the game, so the fans in there are so intense.
Yeah.
And a lot of alcohol. So, all right. Coming up, we will check in with Dave Ayler. Speaking of alcohol, he is wearing his Guinness official throwback 1759 t-shirt. Of course, Shannon has been to the Dublin, Ireland official headquarters and brewery of Guinness. So we got some Guinness connections on the show this morning. Coming up, the high five play of the day. I mentioned Coach A, Paul Alexander, just after 7. James Allen from Vegas. God love him. We'll see if he lost money or made money overnight. He's coming up just after 8 o'clock. Shannon's Salty Shakedown just after 7:30. And your phone calls along the way, 800-707-9760. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. I'm Chris with you till 9. It's the Chris Duel Show. Tracy, Jason, Louisa, Dave, Emilio, Hector, John. Welcome in, everybody. All right. See what you're saying this morning. John Williams from Dallas. Go Suns, go. I'm so torn. I like both teams. I kind of feel sad for Mike Budenholzer and the Bucks and Giannis. But I like Monty Williams. My God, what a great story he is. Phoenix has never won it. You got to like Chris Paul. I like Devin Booker. I like them both. But so I'm not hardcore one team or the other. So in other words, I'm not saying go Suns go, and I guess I'm not saying go Bucks go either. I would hope it would be a better series. I hope it's not a sweep or a 5-game series, but it's sure looking that way right now. Jason, the soundscape stylist, is Dave Ayler. I should have introduced him earlier. Woe is me. Jason Delgado, good morning. Ralph Balderas, good morning. Tracy, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Major League Baseball standings 1 through 30, not separated by league or divisions. Jason says none of the Phoenix starters were less than a +7 in the plus minus. Yeah, they those starters were there to play. Good morning, Luisa, Dave, Emilio. Yeah, San Francisco, Tracy, they're pretty amazing. And good for them. And I'm so tired of the Dodgers. I do like that San Francisco, at least right now, is ahead of the Dodgers in the standings. Okay, I have to edit and mail out a commercial. So I've got 2 of them to edit. So let me see if I can bang that out before I forget. Whoops. Don't do that. That'll be easy.
What is pain keeping you from doing this summer? Getting outdoors, exercising, playing with the kids? Well, no more thanks to QC Kinetics and new long-term solutions for pain relief. Chris Duel here. The natural biologic treatments at QC Kinetics address the root cause of pain in your knees, shoulders, hips, or back. Don't spend one more day in pain. Call QC Kinetics today and get started on the road to recovery. The biggest regret for QC Kinetics patients is they didn't start their treatment sooner and feel better sooner. Treatments take place in office on the same day, no downtime. Call now. Learn more about these regenerative alternatives. 210-571-0318. Refuse to spend one more day in pain. QC Kinetics makes it possible. In Hollywood Park and Westover Hills, 571-0318. That's 571-0318. Get rid of the pain. This is the way. People love it and it works. QC Kinetics.
One more. Did that. I'm doing that. Is that right? I think so.
That's 571-0318. Think about this. Think about this. What is pain keeping you from doing this summer? Getting outdoors, exercising like you should, playing with the kids? It doesn't have to be that way. QC Kinetics has long-term solutions for pain relief. Chris Duel here. The natural biologic treatments at QC Kinetics address the root cause of pain in your knees, your shoulders, your hips, and your back. Don't spend one more day in pain. Call QC Kinetics today and get started on the road to recovery. The biggest regret for QC Kinetics patients is that they didn't start their treatment sooner and feel better sooner. Treatments take place in office on the same day. There is no downtime. It is non-invasive. Call now to learn more about these regenerative alternatives. 210-571-0318. Refuse to spend one more day in pain. QC Kinetics makes it possible. In Hollywood Park and Westover Hills, 571-0318. That's 571-0318.
Why is that so much longer? It's crazy. All right.
this. What is pain keeping you from doing this summer? Getting outdoors, exercising like you should, playing with the kids? It doesn't have to be that way. QC Kinetics has long-term solutions for pain relief. Chris Duel here. The natural biologic treatments at QC Kinetics address the root cause of pain in your knees, your shoulders, your hips, and your back. Don't spend one more day in pain. Call QC Kinetics today and get started on the road to recovery. The biggest regret for QC Kinetics patients is that they didn't start their treatment sooner and feel better sooner. Treatments take place in office on the same day. There is no downtime. It is non-invasive. Call now to learn more about these regenerative alternatives. 210-571-0318. Refuse to spend one more day in pain. QC Kinetics makes it possible. In Hollywood Park and Westover Hills, 571-0318. That's 571-0318.
Here we go. A rain-swept Friday in many locations in our listening area, from Austin to San Antonio, all points in between and beyond. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. In a moment, the high five play of the day. However, we should introduce our soundscape stylist wearing his Guinness, vintage Guinness t-shirt. Dave Ayler, how you doing this morning?
Chris, I'm doing good. And the kind of car that Devin Booker drove to game one was a 1959 Chevy Impala.
My goodness. A 1959 Chevy Impala.
It's called Pretty Penny, which
Wow.
I'm sure you paid a pretty penny for because it's pretty jumped out.
And imagine, though, if you had that 59 Impala, little did you know that a gazillion years later, 62 years later, it would be worth a ton of money, and an NBA player would be driving it to the finals. And, in 59, the NBA finals weren't even a big deal. It's like, whatever.
And,
Celtics and Bill Russell win again, whatever.
And if you look in your morning show prep that I gave you, today is Collector Car Appreciation Day.
Wow. And it is, I was going to get into that, but since you opened the door, let's talk about that for a moment. It is not only Collector Car Appreciation Day, it's also National Sugar Cookie Day. But let's start with Collector Car Appreciation Day. It all ties in.
Yeah.
So, Dave Ayler, are you a big car guy?
Oh, I'm a huge car guy.
Nice.
If I won the lottery, I'd have a garage full of cars like Jay Leno.
Very good.
And that's the annual celebration to raise awareness of the role of automotive restoration and collection plays in American society.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, that's right off the Wikipedia page.
Oh, wow. All right, so you win the lottery Saturday night, let's say, Dave Ayler.
Okay.
You just got a ton of, you win $17 million. Money's no object. Of course, you wouldn't quit this gig because you love it so much. The Chris Duel Show experience. But you can maybe do it remotely from your palace. So what's the first car? So you say, that's it. I'm the next Jay Leno. I'm going to get at least 10 pimped out cool supercars. What's the first car you want to go get?
No doubt in my mind, 67 Shelby Cobra.
Nice. Why?
Why? Because it's a great car. They're SOBs to drive, is what from what I hear. Because it was basically made for a racetrack, and it's over $1 million for one. So if you can find one for sale.
Very nice. Shannon, any car that has always been on your radar that you would like to get, be behind the wheel, drive?
So I've been lucky enough to be in and drive a Thunderbird as well as like MG and a Morgan. My grandfather used to collect some old school cars. And when I turned 16, never let anybody drive any of the cars. But for whatever reason, when I turned 16, he's like, "Hey, you want to drive this?" I was like, "I guess." That was very hard. No power steering.
No.
I would not have. I don't think I would have lasted driving a car.
No power steering, no power brakes.
I mean, I was putting all my weight into, it was like driving a snowmobile. But if I had that amount of money where, because I've always wanted a Jeep Wrangler, but they're not the most practical cars, right? They're not great mileage.
But you're a millionaire. Who cares?
Exactly. So if I had that kind of extra cash flow, that would be my fun weekend car.
A Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
Very
That one
cool.
I just always liked
That's
them.
nice.
Well, you got to like that it's not like a Testarossa or a Maserati. It's a Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
You like what you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, the car I always wanted as a kid, watching the moon landings and the astronauts in the 60s, they all drove Corvettes. So when I was a kid, and to this day I see a Corvette and it's just cool. And my brother, who was a fighter pilot, drove a Corvette. So I always thought, man, when I grow up someday, I'm going to get a Corvette. I'm going to be cool like an astronaut and drive a Corvette. And I never got one. And then Prince comes out with little red Corvettes. Well, to me, Corvettes are even cooler. I never managed to get one and if I got one now, being an old guy, people go, oh, midlife crisis. What's wrong with him? That old dude driving a Corvette. What's wrong with? So now I'm kind of, now I'm too old probably.
If you think that Prince song's about a car, you need to listen to the lyrics again.
I have listened to the lyrics.
But a 63 split
Take
window.
you for a ride in my love machine. Yes.
63 split window Corvette. That'd be a great car to have.
Yes. And I still see like, and I read these stories about the astronauts back in Cape Canaveral. They're lucky they didn't get killed because they like drive from place to place and they'd race each other in their Corvettes because they were just maniacs.
That'd be so much fun.
Yeah. Very, very cool. All right. But a great song, Little Red Corvette by Prince off the 1999 album, which is one of the greatest albums ever. I'm just saying. All right. Without any further ado, it is about time we gave somebody a high five. We love giving out the high fives. It is time. We do it every morning at about this time. The high five play of the day, brought to you by the 2 high five locations in Austin. Shannon, Salty, Sweeney, who is deserving of a high five this morning?
I mean, we love when players give back to the communities they're from or the communities they play in. We talked about Patrick Mahomes yesterday, and sticking with the NFL, we're going to go to the Ravens. As defensive end, Calais Campbell has donated $30,000 to help his former high school go from the Rebels to the Ravens. Now, this has been happening around the country, right? Schools that were named after Confederate war folks and leaders, or even rebels like this, are, there's been a push to change that and bring him kind of into this century. And so his former school has said, okay, we're going to be the Ravens. It just so happens he plays for the Ravens.
Yeah.
It's kind of serendipitous, makes it that much cooler. But the school is raising money, and he said, okay, I'll match what you raise. And he has since given $30,000, and he says, hey, if you need more, let me know. I mean, people who fight for these changes, it's all good and dandy, but it does cost a lot of money. It's not just a flip of a switch, right? I mean, you have to get all new uniforms for all of your athletics. You have to get all new signage for the buildings and all the new logos made. And almost, it's almost like a complete workover of the school. And, he even said he hated the mascot when he was there. They actually had a Confederate soldier as the mascot that was walking around. So he's very excited for this change. He's very proud of his school. He's happy to be a part of it. And I love it. I mean, now they're going to get those new uniforms and the new floors for their gyms and all of that good stuff that much sooner. And it's something now that he can reflect back on and say, not only was I a part of that, but I am now proud to be an alumni of that school. So high five to you, Calais Campbell.
Very cool. And you're right. How cool that Calais Campbell just happens to be a Baltimore Raven, and his high school changing its name from the Rebels to the Ravens. And I know a lot of when these things happen, and there was a big one in San Antonio. San Antonio had Robert E. Lee High School, which was a big, long time, and still is. But they've changed it. I think it's now called Lee High School. I could be wrong. Dave Ayler, you may or may not know more about this, but it's not. Yeah, they made that an acronym for something else. So it's not Robert E. Lee, the president of the Confederacy. But when I was growing up, Shannon and Dave, famously, Robert E. Lee High School in San Antonio won the 1971 state football championship. And I used to, as a kid, listen on the radio. And Lee wasn't even in my district. I went to Holmes High School in San Antonio, but it was such a big deal that here they were headed to state, and their quarterback was Tommy Kramer, and Tommy Kramer would go on to Rice University and have a big career there, play many, many years in the NFL. as starting quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. But I remember Tommy Kramer used to throw touchdown passes. His go-to wide receiver, a great name for a wide receiver, was a guy by the name of Pat Rocket. So it was Tommy Kramer, a long bomb to Pat Rocket for the touchdown. But interestingly, and as I look back on the Robert E. Lee High School uniforms back in 1971, they were red jerseys and a huge, on each shoulder pad, a huge Confederate flag. Which, and again, I was an 11-year-old kid, just listening on the radio and watching highlights on TV. And as a kid, it's like, wow, those are cool uniforms. And oh, that's a cool, hey, there's a Confederate flag. You don't think about it. And it becomes such a tradition. And for decades and decades and decades in this town, it was the Robert E. Lee Volunteers. So when the name change happened and they decided to change it, a lot of people who were just used to it, and a lot of them being white people, were angry at the changes. They didn't think they were necessary. But as you mentioned, Shannon, in this story, Calais Campbell says he hated the name Rebels of his high school because, you can certainly, if you check your history, one of the big issues for the Confederacy was the preservation of slavery. And so that's one of the reasons that there are those issues is that. And so, my feeling, and I feel the same way with the Washington football team when they needed to change the name. There were enough people. There was a significant number in that case of Native Americans who were upset at the name of the Washington football team. So if it's legit and you do your research and you check your history and it's offensive to enough people, then yeah, let's change the name. So I kind of get that.
When it comes to Washington, I'm still surprised they are still the Washington football team and haven't settled down on a new name, because unlike these high schools, they have enough coin to make the transition.
And it's not that tough. I mean, here we are, a second full year of Washington in the NFL being called the Washington football team. You would think they could have gotten together a blue ribbon panel and some big and I said this years ago. I said this 7-10 years ago when the name was a controversy, and Daniel Snyder, the owner, said, "Oh no, we're never changing it. Never, ever. This is I will die on this hill." Well, now you are dying on that hill, Daniel, and your wife is now the CEO of the Washington football team, and you no longer handle day-to-day operations after the record $10 million fine over the way that team runs its culture and its operations. But Shannon, I've told you this before on this show as well. Easy. The Washington Americans. It makes sense on every level. You can not only honor Native Americans the way you should by honoring them and celebrating them, but it's the nation's capital. It's perfect. It's DC. So you can have red, white, and blue can be your colors, or you can keep your colors and you can just directly honor Native first Americans. So I don't know why you can't do something like that. Take a weekend or take a month. It's been 2 years now. Come up with a new name and make it happen.
And even as a Cowboys fan, I love it, right? Because we don't ourselves as America's team. And that rivalry, before every game, there's always, that 60-second clip of old school games and the broadcast and the fans in the stands and them going at each other. But let's be honest, last couple of years, they're kind of been the bottom of the barrel type teams. There's really not much on the line.
Yeah,
it's for a division, but it's for a division for like an 8-8 squad. I mean, who really cares? So to drum that up even more, that would be cool if they had a name like that. And I'm thinking of like the W and the A kind of put together. I think that would make a cool logo symbol. Also, just personally, every time I think of Washington football team, I think of I flip the initials in there a little too often. And
yes.
I work in radio. That needs to not be that close to my brain.
Yes, and it's certainly the other acronym applies to what's been going on with that franchise. But again, we were so used to it, and you talk about the Dallas Cowboys and that Washington team. Again, when I was a kid, kids would play Cowboys and Indians. When you were a 7-year-old kid, when I was growing up in San Antonio, Texas. You would either play war, where you would act like you were, had guns and you'd be different. You'd play war with your fellow kids, friends, or sometimes a lot of time you would play cowboys and Indians. Who's going to be the Cowboys? And I know Indians is no longer the accurate or politically correct term. It's Native Americans. But as a kid and in the 60s, it was Cowboys and Indians. So that was part of the deal with the Dallas Cowboys and that Washington team. I remember even Tom Landry, who is my favorite coach and a saint in my view, and a football god in my view, and it's on YouTube. You've probably seen it, Shannon. I'll bet you Dave Ayler has seen it. There's an American Express card commercial where it's the Old West, and Tom Landry walks into a bar, and he's in a cowboy uniform, and he's got a cowboy hat, cowboy costume. He's got a cowboy hat. He's wearing chaps and a holster and guns, and he's got cowboy boots. And the punchline is, carry the American Express card with you. And he's at the bar and he goes, because you never know when you're going to be surrounded. And then these Washington Redskins show up in their uniforms, and Landry goes, surrounded by Redskins. And it's kind of funny. And then he walks out the door, and the door of the bar hits the Washington football players, and they all fall down. And it was I guess that commercial was in the 80s, and it seemed innocuous at the time. Yeah, but and it was funny. And Landry, for Landry to do like a comedy American Express card commercial was so against his type, and Mr. Stoic, never jokes, never smiles, Tom Landry. It was a very memorable commercial at the time. Do you remember that commercial at all, Dave Ayler? Okay,
no, but I'll have to check it out though.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, it sounds. I think that's funny.
At the time, it was very funny. So I'm sure if you YouTube Tom Landry, American Express, and maybe that R word for the Washington football team, you'll probably find it. But anyway, there's that. Coming up, a man who saw all those games between Tom Landry's Cowboys and George Allen's Washington football team, Coach A, Paul Alexander, as we draw nearer and nearer to football training camp. Cowboys camp on July 22nd. Today is July 9th. My Holmes High School math says that's 13 days away. We'll talk a little football and more with Paul Alexander. Coming up also in the 7 o'clock hour, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, another $1,000 giveaway at 7:20, the grand in your hand cash giveaway. We do that 12 times throughout the day on the 20s right here. You can join us on the phone lines, 800-707-9760. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. He's Dave Ayler. I'm Chris, with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Good morning, Beth Settle. And back-to-back, Beth Settle and Steve Duraco. I think I know these people. Welcome in, everybody. Steve, Beth, Tracy, Hector, Jason, Louisa, Dave Emilio, Jason again, Ralph, Hector Gomez, John Williams. Good morning, good morning, good morning. See, Steve Childress says the car he would get. I got a private message. Steve says a 1951 Lincoln Continental ragtop. Wow. All right. 1 hour down. That was easy. Nobody got hurt. It's the way we like it. And a happy Friday back at you, Mr. Rocket Man, Steve Duraco. Ooh, I'm in queue. Let me get rid of that. Or I will hear that echo in here. We don't want that, do we? I believe, because I need it. Go grab some coffee. Oh, Lord. Paul Alexander next. Always entertaining, always insightful, always thought-provoking. The man, the myth, the legend. A credit to his gender and his country. A credit to all that is American. Yeah, Dave Emilio Castanuela. You talk about that guy in Washington who's trademarked. He's like a trademark squatter. I've heard about him. But I've also heard that you can go to court, and if an entity has a more legitimate claim to that trademark, that can be overruled in court. And I'd almost like to see Mr. Trademark Squatter kind of lose a court case like that. I got a coffee. Things just improved. Let's see. I am going to pimp the show on Facebook. I should guzzle coffee while I have a chance. We have a spamming troll who uses two screen names. Thank you. It's on Twitch, so you guys can't see it, but on Twitch. Want to be famous? Buy followers, primes, and viewers, and then there's some kind of a link. A Twitch troll. Woo! What kind of a troll are you? I'm a Twitch troll. You Twitch troll. How dare you? I'm going to take a look at Paul Alexander's Facebook page. See what he's talking about. Here we go.
This is the Chris Duel Show. Now, Chris Duel.
The weekend is officially here. It is Friday, July 9th. It is the time of our lives. Yeah, it's a little rainy, depending on where you are this morning in the great state of Texas, but it's the weekend. We will find a way to prevail. And now and then the skies will part and the football gods will smile down upon us, even though it's not yet football season. But this is the month that football begins. It's the Chris Duel Show. I'm Chris Duel, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. And when I think of football, I think of one of our favorite go-to guys to talk football with, because he lives, breathes, eats, meditates, I'm sure. His mantra is probably football related. I'm sure he chants a football mantra. At least that's my guess. He is the man. We bring him on every Friday when we can grab him. He's done everything there is to do in the worlds of broadcasting, television, and radio, as an anchor, as a reporter, as a host, as an executive, with stints in Austin and San Antonio, doing his thing. Now he has a great website called Radically Rational at radicallyrational.com. The coach, Coach A, Paul Alexander, how are you doing this morning?
Chris, Shannon, and Dave, very well. Good morning. Hope everybody is well there. Also, I always look forward to these Friday visits.
And looking at your Facebook page earlier this week, Paul, you had a very direct and to the point Facebook post, which reads, "I'm getting the football itch." And we are 13 days away from Cowboys training camp. This is the month it all begins. And you are feeling it, I imagine.
You know, I really am. And it's such a good feeling. I mean, obviously I set my biological clock around football season. But years coaching where it's like, look, I can't wait for it to be football season, but can we wait just a couple of days, so I can fire up the barbecue pit a couple more times and stuff like that? Oh, man, all that's gone this year. I'm like a little kid. I just can't. I don't remember the last time I was so excited about a football season.
Well, Paul, we haven't talked to you since the announcement came down, but the Dallas Cowboys will be featured on Hard Knocks for the training camp series. Now, as a Cowboys fan, I am happy and also terrified of what this might mean. Of course, there is a Hard Knocks curse that people love to talk about, but it's also more Cowboys. So I'm wanting to gauge how you're feeling about getting more Cowboys leading up to the season. But if you do believe in the curse and that this could be potentially more harmful than good for the Cowboys this season?
I've tried to reach a place of zen and calm and serenity about all this. This is just little Abner Jared Jones being little Abner Jared Jones. It's going to happen. He is P.T. Barnum. Frankly, I don't think it's a good thing. I do think there is, for lack of a better term, a hard knocks curse. I don't see it as being a good thing for a football team, particularly a football team that is in the phase that the Cowboys are in right now. But it's going to happen. So I'm just going to try to be entertained by it and hope that everybody deals with it as well as possible. But Mike McCarthy is not exactly the first head coach that I think would be effective in handling hard knocks.
Well, and Mike McCarthy, as you bring him up, Paul, and I know he won that Super Bowl with the Packers, but I'm just not, what after year one, and granted, he had a ton of injuries, but and you have brought up the fact that you think the Cowboys' record would have been a lot worse if it were not for Mike McCarthy. But I'm just not feeling that he's the guy to take the Cowboys to the promised land. Do you think he's a two-part question? Do you think he's on the hot seat this season? And part number two, do you believe, can you envision a Cowboys Super Bowl and Mike McCarthy being carried off the field as Landry was, as Jimmy Johnson was, as a victorious Cowboys head coach in a Super Bowl?
I want to be fair about this, and a lot of rotten things happened last year that were beyond McCarthy's control, and he was in that environment for the first time, and he had a historically bad defense. So, I am so much looking forward to this season, and as far as I'm concerned, he got a clean slate with me. Let's go. But if they melt down again this year, that seat could get pretty warm. I do think that it's kind of an odd cultural fit with Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys. I kind of think back to Chan Gailey and coaches of that particular profile and style. And again, I want to be fair, but there were a lot of reports in McCarthy's last couple of years with the Packers that his approach had gotten stale, that his systems had gotten stale, that he was not as good a game day situational coach as he had been. So I think he's got some questions to answer this year, but the best friend he's got is Dan Quinn. I would take Dan Quinn to dinner every single night.
Paul, looking at the landscape of the NFC East, of course, we do have training to go through as well as those preseason games, and injuries do unfortunately occur. But as it is right now, who's the biggest threat you see standing in the way for the Cowboys to get to the top of the division?
The Washington football team. Because in an era in pro football in which everything is geared to the offense, there are very few really elite level defenses. And that is an elite level defense that's just going to get better. And we talk about Fitz magic. Think about this. He's run so hot and cold, but the reason for that is he's never played on a team with a great defense. So he's had to be very aggressive and take a lot of chances. So you go through red hot streaks, and then you just go through famines where you throw 5 picks. This is the first time that he's got a defense that can win games for him. So he's a smart guy. He's Ivy League educated. He's not going to be forcing the ball over the middle as much. That team, I think, is nasty. They're going to have to win with a certain style, and they're going to have to stick with that. But I think they're a real threat, not just in the East, but in the NFC in general.
Well, and Paul, as we talk with Coach A, Paul Alexander, you bring up the Washington football team. And just before this segment, Shannon and I were talking about this team, and it's a team in you mentioned a great defense and maybe a team that can win the NFC East and be a contender in the NFC. But my God, you look at the off the field performance of that team, just find a record $10 million by the National Football League for an investigation into its day-to-day operations and its culture. The wife of owner Daniel Snyder now installed as CEO and running the day-to-day operations of that franchise. And Shannon and I were talking about this, Paul. This is year number 2 of this team calling itself the Washington football team. And I realize maybe you can't change a team's name overnight, but shouldn't you be able to do it in a year or 6 months? And I would say even a month. I mean, I've had some good suggestions over the years, legitimate suggestions for that team name. And one of the theories is that Daniel Snyder may just want to stick it to the critics and say, we're not even going to rename it. We're just going to stay Washington football team. We'll show you. We'll just go with it. How do you feel about year number 2 of the team with no name?
Well, first of all, I'm hearing the same things you are, that it's getting more and more likely that Washington football team is going to be their name going forward. You know, the motivation for that, I'm not really sure, but I do think this. If I were a Washington fan, which I am not, but if I were, I actually would kind of spin these off-season developments in a positive way. Dan Snyder out of the way on a day-to-day basis, that's a good thing. His wife running the team, that's a good thing. And their ace in the hole is there could not be a cooler and calmer and more organized guy in football than Ron Rivera.
Any chance at all that Jerry Jones sees Dan Snyder stepping back is a good thing for that organization, that he takes a step back in his day-to-day with the Cowboys? Any chance?
How about a big old fat zero? Not going to happen.
Paul, you mentioned at the outset, and I love that you use the term, football is a part of your biological clock, and this is the time of year that you just feel football yet. And here we are on the 9th of July, an opportunity maybe for another weekend or two, football free, to do things like barbecue and, spend a weekend with family as we say goodbye to family and spouses and say, hey, we will see you after the Super Bowl, at least on the weekend. How do you navigate, the NBA Finals is looking like it might not be that competitive. Phoenix took a 2-0 lead over Milwaukee last night, getting the win in Game 2. But I'm just jonesing for football, and it's like I can't get into this NBA Finals as much as I'd like to if it were a good NBA Finals. I know the Olympics are coming in Tokyo, but how do we navigate these final 2 weeks before NFL training camps begin?
Well, just off the cuff, I wouldn't give up on the Bucks just yet. They always say the series starts, when a home team loses. So let's keep an eye on that. But yeah, it's not terribly compelling. The Olympics, this is a travesty. I don't even know that. I mean, this is so ridiculous. This is so insane that it's hard to believe it's happening. And yeah, you're right. With football, the NFL has done a really good job over the last decade. Kind of following the NBA's lead. The NBA always had ways to stay in the news cycle for all 12 months. And then the NFL kind of went to school on that, and they got really good at it. And the thing is, they just build your anticipation so much because, ironically, the 2 weeks that are the most dead part of the entire annual NFL calendar are the 2 weeks before training camp because everybody's on vacation. They're doing what we're doing. They're firing up their barbecue pits. I mean, literally, all coaches and players, they have every single training camp practice completely choreographed, every single play, every minute of every practice. I mean, they can almost literally roll in the day before training camp, and here we go. But right now, nothing's happening, And it's almost like a scene from The Lone Ranger, where Tonto goes, it's too quiet. And it builds all this anticipatory anxiety for us, and we're just looking forward to it so much. So it's like seeing the Saturn V on the launch pad, but it's not venting liquid oxygen yet. It's just sitting there, but you know it's going to be a big boom.
Paul, one of the reasons that the NFL was able to really stretch the 12 months and remain in the conversation is, of course, this Aaron Rodgers story, whether he's on vacation with his new fiance and other actors or whether he's performing in the match. But obviously, the other question being, is he going to be a Packer? Is he even going to play this season? Are they
I'll
going to
hit
be
the
playing him?
contest
Now that
after
we're
his
in
answer.
July, training camp is quickly approaching. In your mind, what is the deadline when we will need to know something? A, whether he plays or not, or B, yes, he's playing and where that might be?
Well, first of all, he ain't showing up at the Packers training camp on time. I mean, that's the one thing that we know for sure. You know, you briefly referenced the match. Yeah, I couldn't help myself. I watched it. And was it just me? You've got these four absolute luminaries out there for a variety of different reasons. And there was no question that Aaron Rodgers was the dominant personality. No question about it whatsoever. I'm sorry, the dude's just good. And he holds a whole lot of cards here, and I know that he played those cards very close to the vest. He was asked about the situation, and all he said was, "We'll see." I know there are a lot of people who know a lot more about the NFL than I do who think that they will come to some kind of agreement. I still, Shannon, really got some reservations about this, and it has to do with Aaron Rodgers, the personality, and Aaron Rodgers, the man. He's just not a bluffer. I mean, this guy is ticked off beyond authorized repair. He's made a couple of really carefully crafted statements about how much he loves his teammates, how much he loves the Packers, how much he loves Packers fans, comma, but I can't stand that blankety blank, and I'm not putting up with this anymore. Not every NFL football player can make that happen. Not everybody's got the stick. Aaron Rodgers does.
Going to be absolutely fascinating to see how that plays out. We will continue with Coach A, Paul Alexander. In fact, we'll dive into some college football here in a moment. But at 7:20, we want to do our contest. It is the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. A keyword coming. You text it, you're in the running for $1,000. Here it comes.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Text the nationwide keyword EASY to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's EASY to 200-200.
Easy, like Sunday Morning, one of my favorite Commodores songs. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Love talking football with Coach A, Paul Alexander. And Paul, Shannon reminded us yesterday that Big 12 Media Days are coming up next week. Obviously, we'll be hearing some great sound bites, I would imagine, certainly intriguing one way or another from new Texas Longhorns head coach Steve Sarkisian. Just wondering, Paul, and you're a huge Longhorn guy. You covered the Longhorns in Austin. You hosted the Coach's Show back in the day. You're the original creator of the radio show Longhorn Pipeline. What should be the expectation for season one of Sark, and what is your expectation for season one of Coach Sark?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very exciting, and I think they're going to be very competitive. And I'll say this, I know they haven't played a game yet. Sark kind of won me over. I mean, I had some reservations about that hire, but I actually think there's a cultural football reference and orientation that Sarkisian is going to bring to Texas football that they haven't had before. So I think the excitement is real. I think the big key, as it always is in Austin, is how you handle it the first time you encounter adversity in a season. And football is all about adversity. And historically, the Longhorns have just not handled that well for a couple of decades. So we'll see what kind of stability that Stark brings to that. But he is such a bright mind. He is such a great recruiter. And he is such a fresh thinker. I mean, it's kind of morning in Austin. It's springtime in the fall in Austin. I'm fired up about this, really.
With Big 12 Media Days approaching, the preseason poll was released. Oklahoma, of course, back-to-back Big 12 champions, so they get all of the first place votes, putting them at the number one spot. Number two, Iowa State, and then number three, at Texas. How do you feel about that spot for Texas, with it being Sark's first season, with a new quarterback taking over for Sam Ehlinger, and all the questions that surround the rest of the Big 12? No surprise here, Kansas listed at number 10.
Yeah, we'll start with no surprise. That's for sure. No, I would think those rankings in the preseason are just about right. I kind of read these things for entertainment value only, but if I were ranking them going into the season, that's the way I would have them. You got to be really impressed with what's happened at Iowa State. I mean, that's a really good program. And the thing is, I don't want to do this too early, but there are quarterbacks who excite me. Rattler at OU, that dude, that snake can bite you. That is a bad man.
Spencer Rattler. And we're already hearing about him, Paul. He's got his own Rattler logo now that players can make money off of name, image, and likeness. You're impressed by Rattler? Are you going to go out and buy a Rattler t-shirt? Will we see you doing a Radically Rational video with Rattler, a Rattler logo on your t-shirt that will make him some money?
I get crazy here. I did praise him. I think he's a good quarterback, but it says OU on the side of the helmet, and he can go straight to hell.
I feel the same way. A player can be very, very good, but if you got OU on your helmet, I don't like you. Go ahead, Shannon.
Well, he's got OU on his helmet right now, but a lot of people are thinking that the Texans, who are probably in need of a quarterback, seeing that Deshaun Watson, that situation is still up in the air. Tyrod Taylor is pretty much viewed as a backup and a guy who's a good fill-in, but not really the guy you want leading your franchise through the long haul. So Spencer Rattler's name has been tossed around quite a bit as a potential candidate to become the next franchise quarterback for the Texans. Do you like him there? Do you like him then?
Well, if it worked out that way, sure. As I said, I think he is incredibly talented. But a word that you really haven't heard much in the offseason, except for the reference to Deshaun Watson and what's going on there. Have you heard a word about the Houston Texans?
No.
That's probably a good thing for the organization. I mean, the lower they can get under the radar right now, the better.
Yeah, what a dumpster fire they have been, and it's going to be very interesting to see, on one hand, how many victories they can amass, if any, in this upcoming season. Paul Alexander, not only a great follow on Facebook, but go look at the website, Radically Rational, at radicallyrational.com. Yes, he does have sports takes, but he also has some amazing, thought-provoking takes on culture and politics and life. Radically Rational, the website, and also a page on Facebook that you should go search as well. Radically Rational. Lots of great material there being created daily by Paul Alexander. Coach A, Paul Alexander, enjoy your weekend. Next time we talk, we will be, we can almost count the hours until football season next time we speak on the radio. We always love it. Thanks for taking the time, Paul.
Chris, Dave, thank you so much. Happy weekend. Talk to you soon.
All right. Happy weekend, Paul Alexander. I love Shannon. He gives some kudos to Spencer Rattler, but then I think maybe for the first time on this show, we have actually told a player to go to hell. You play for OU, so Spencer Rattler, you can go to hell.
I mean, as a Texas fan, it's, give them hell.
But yeah,
I think that's a first.
Give them hell and go to hell. Spencer Rattler. Very, very. I like it. I like it a lot. All right. But if you become a Houston Texan, we may start liking you. So it's funny how things can change. All right. Coming up, if that wasn't salty enough for you, Shannon's Salty Shakedown is moments away. In fact, your final Salty Shakedown of the week, it's going to have to last you till Monday. I'm sure it will be spectacular, as it always is, along with this day in sports history and sports birthdays. Coming up just after 8 o'clock, will he answer the bell in Las Vegas, where it's 2 hours earlier? Mr. James Allen, our good friend from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We will see, how does he do Vegas? And we'll talk some football with him as well. Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. We are with you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Friday on the Chris Duel Show. Clint Proctor says, I'm salty. I still dislike Baker. Although his commercials are funny. His commercials are very, very funny. And granted, that's not, he doesn't write them or direct them. But yeah, I'm not feeling the love for Baker Mayfield yet either. I would like to. I'm open. And he's a lot better, and it's not fair. And I did early on call him Johnny Manziel 2.0. But he needs to deliver the goods as a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. He needs to take them to the promised land, into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs a few times. And then grow up a little bit. You're a quarterback in the National Football League. Behave like one. Don't behave like Baker Mayfield. Okay. Clint says Baker gonna Baker, crotch and all. Exactly. Yeah, you're a professional athlete, and you need to do your little crotch grabbing gesture. It is kind of funny hearing Colin Cowherd regularly dog and troll Baker Mayfield. All right, I'll be back in about 90 seconds. I'm going to heat up my coffee, get a little coffee infusion. right. Funny John Williams. Baker Mayfield grabbing air. Very, very funny. Let's see. Oh, quick. Do you have easy access to the O.J. Simpson I'm just saying drop? Okay, never mind then. Okay. Let's see. He was. Oh, okay. He'll be the last birthday I do. So if you want to hit it, hit it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Giants head coach, 16 to 17. Here we come. Chris Duel show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Music and soundscape provided by one Dave Ayler. We appreciate him. We appreciate you hanging out with us on a Friday. Lots of ways you can participate in the show, one of which is the live video feed. Lots of ways to get in and join us there, including Facebook. We stream live video on Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone's Facebook pages, but some people will join us, like Robert Almaraz joins us on YouTube. There's a YouTube link. There's a Twitch link to the live video feed. We had a Twitch troll earlier trying to see if anybody wants to buy followers on Twitch. No, thank you, but thank you for spamming us on Twitch. Lots coming up. James Allen, I think he's going to answer the bell from Las Vegas, going to join us just after 8 o'clock from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because he shared a Facebook post about today's show just a few minutes ago. So it's about 5:37, 5:38 a.m. in Vegas right now. So man, he probably just didn't go to sleep. That will be very impressive if that's how he's awake at this hour in Las Vegas. We'll find out. Lots to talk about. NBA Finals, Major League Baseball. Astros lose to the Oakland A's yesterday, but they win that series 2-1. So they actually extended their lead in the AL West during that series by 1 game, and they'll face the New York Yankees in a 3-game series, and then it'll be time for the All-Star break. We'll get into that. We'll talk Olympics, Team USA basketball, and more. But in just a few seconds, your final salty shakedown of the week. It will have to carry you through this rain-swept weekend. Before that, sports birthdays, including a very notorious sports birthday. And we will start it all with this day in sports history. July 9th, 1877. They started a little tennis tournament in England, and they decided to call it Wimbledon. That's right. Wimbledon began on this day in 1877. It kind of caught on. It kind of worked out. The first ever Wimbledon tennis championship began on this day in 1877. The first official lawn tennis tournament In season 1, it was men's singles only. Wisely, they eventually allowed the women in. On this day in 1968, Wilt Chamberlain became the first reigning NBA MVP to be traded. He was the MVP of the NBA for the Philadelphia 76ers. They said, meh, we'll trade you to the LA Lakers. That was weird. I'm going to have to go research what the heck they were thinking back in Philly in 1968. On this day in the year 2000, police fired tear gas at fans during a World Cup qualifying soccer game between Zimbabwe and South Africa. It set off a stampede of fans and killed 12 in Harare, Zimbabwe. Man, soccer fans are crazy. Austin FC fans, don't be going crazy like that at Q2 Stadium. Finally, on this day in 2018, easy for me to say, hedge fund billionaire David Tepper bought the Carolina Panthers for an NFL record $2.23 billion. And he is yet to turn that franchise around. We'll see what happens with the Carolina Panthers. Isn't Sam Darnold their quarterback now? Maybe he'll be the savior for the Carolina Panthers and hedge fund billionaire David Tepper. That is this day in sports history. How about some sports birthdays? I got 3 of them for you. Born on this day in 1970, NFL quarterback, St. Louis Rams, Washington football team, Trent Green. Not that great a quarterback, but Trent Green. He had some big seasons, but nothing that big. Also, born on this day in 1977, former New York Giants head coach, now a Dallas Cowboys consultant, hired a few months ago as a Dallas Cowboys consultant, Ben McAdoo. Coached the Giants from 2016 to 2017. Didn't go that well. Maybe he'll do better as a Cowboys consultant. Ben McAdoo was born in Homer City, Pennsylvania. But finally, your marquee sports birthday of the day, Orenthal James Simpson. That's right, O.J. Simpson. Happy birthday, Juice. O.J. Simpson, Hall of Fame running back, longtime holder of the single-season rushing title. He did that in 1973, ran for 2,003 yards. He was the NFL MVP that season in 1973, won the Heisman Trophy for USC in 1968. The Juice kind of got into a little bit of trouble when he allegedly and found guilty in the civil suit of killing his wife, his estranged wife at the time, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ron Goldman. Not good, OJ. O.J. Simpson was born in San Francisco, California on this day in 1947. Those are your sports birthdays. That's your sports history lesson. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fasten your seatbelts. If you're driving, especially in the rain, both hands on the wheel, breathe deeply, and chant your mantra, because here it is, your Friday Salty Shakedown.
All right, Chris, as we know, I went to the Austin FC at Q2 Stadium earlier in the week, and that thing is a well-oiled machine. All of the staff, from the parking attendants to the gatekeepers to the ticket takers to the people at the concessions, it's great. And it got me thinking about the NFL season that we have upon us, because most places have announced that they will have 100% capacity. And as any human being who gets out on a daily basis, and I don't even know that you can go a block without seeing a help wanted sign, now hiring sign, whether it be retail or restaurants. And I think the NFL might have issues hiring people, because think about it. It's not like the NBA, even when they started bringing in limited fans, they said, yes, we're going to have limited options as far as concessions. We're only going to have certain points of entry, right? But you can't necessarily do that when you have a 100% capacity stadium. Okay. They need all the parking attendants, security, cooks, counter service, janitorial staff, other stadium folks that are just like the random people that sit at the top of every level you go through on the elevator. I don't really know what they do. I guess if someone falls, they're there to give medical assistance. I don't know. But there's thousands of people that work throughout the games on the weekends and even to prepare these stadiums and get them ready for all of the fans. And I read this article that was questioning the same thing, and their take on it was there will probably be some changes, right? We could probably see mobile ordering happening at some stadiums, but then, okay, what's the Wi-Fi situation look like? Or maybe they lax the parking a little bit and it's less monitored, right? They're not going to ticket you if you're parking in the wrong spot. Maybe they lower security a little bit. Maybe they have one person covering a larger footprint. But the sad truth is going to be that some teams are going to be able to make these changes and do them well, while other teams, looking at you, Washington Redskins, because you're the first team I think of every time I think of something going horribly wrong when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to stuff within your stadium, we could have some issues, right? It could be bottlenecking at the entrance and then fans being upset that they don't even make it in time for kickoff because they're an hour line just to get into the stadium. I really hope that doesn't take away from the season itself, but it is something to consider, especially now that we know, even though the Olympics, no spectators, the NFL will have 100% capacity. So, Chris, if you are an operations manager for one of these stadiums, what's something you might implement if you are having hiring issues going into the season?
I would bribe potential employees, give them perks. There's merch. Yeah, I mean, most people I think who work at a football stadium, just like this, people who work at Spurs games, they're fans. They really like it's kind of cool if you're a Cowboys fan to work at a Cowboys game, or if you're a Longhorns fan to work at DKR, that's cool. That's some street cred. So I would somehow make it more worth their while by giving them t-shirts, caps, merch, something like that. But it is amazing. And you're right, Shannon, it's happening in so many businesses. There is a labor shortage everywhere, which is just, I would have thought coming out of the pandemic, everybody would want to just get a gig wherever they can get it.
Go out of your house.
Yeah, but that's not been the reality.
I don't, I know a lot of people see internships because so many internships they don't pay you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's not do that, NFL. Let's not be that corporate side where we take internships for free labor when we can't find other people to pay to do those jobs. But something to keep an eye on as we get going in the season. All right, we've talked a lot of NBA this week, and rightfully so. We're in the middle of the NBA Finals. And also, there's that little thing with ESPN, Rachel Nichols, and Maria Taylor, who has had her name thrown around quite a bit due to that Rachel Nichols recording and her not wanting Maria Taylor to take her spot on the NBA Finals sidelines. Well, we've heard from Maria Taylor now, Chris, and she posted on her Twitter during the dark times. I always remember that I am in this position to open doors and light the path that others walk down. I've taken some punches, but that just means I'm still in the fight. Remember to lift as you climb and always keep rising. She posted some pictures with what looks like colleagues and athletes that she's met along the way and them smiling and having great conversations. So she mentioned it without mentioning it. I think it was very classy. But also, that's something that's getting more interesting now, right? We talked about, oh, maybe she'll get poached or ESPN's going to owe her. Well, her contract ends July 20th of this year, which, oh, by the way, should the Suns not sweep, should this go longer, it's like, say, a game six would take place on July 20th. So she may be done with them before the finals. Rumor has it now that ESPN has offered her $3 million for her next deal. She currently makes $1 million a year, but Amazon, as well as NBC, have reportedly started the conversations with her to potentially bring her over. We don't know what that dollar amount looks like, but as we know, Maria Taylor, a huge part of ESPN's College Game Day, so she does have that football experience, and she could take part in the Amazon NFL thing that's going to start happening, as well as obviously NBC's football coverage. So interesting things happening there. She, like we said, she has a lot of leverage. Do you? I mean, this thing is. I feel like we're just getting started here, which is unfortunate. if you're Maria Taylor and you want this conversation to be ended, do you sign with ESPN again and say, all right, here it is. Clearly, I don't have an issue because I just signed again for my $3 million. Or do you maybe look elsewhere?
Wow. It's a great question. And I mean, when you feel dissed, that it's hard to, I mean, they're going to have to really try to make it right for her. And if you're ESPN, Shannon, you've got it kind of this perception now, and it may be reality, that you're not good at diversity. I mean, you're not good when it comes to minorities, and you're not good when it comes to women in general. So you really want to say, hey, we're getting it right. Maria Taylor is staying and she wants to stay here. So, I mean, it's going to be fascinating. And if you're Amazon or if you're somebody else, the thing that is lost on a lot of people in this controversy with Rachel Nichols and Maria Taylor is Maria Taylor is very good at what she does. And she played basketball, and she's got experience as an athlete, and she's good at what she does. So, I mean, she is in the driver's seat here, and good for her that there's a bidding war that now seems to be underway for her services.
Right. And if she should walk away from ESPN, the conversation may be, well, I guess they're not changing their ways. They continue to struggle there. So, as I said, July 20th is when her current contract runs out, which also happens to be game 6 of the NBA Finals, should we get there. All right, finally today, this was a weird thing that came out. It's always fascinating to see celebrities, athletes, all the high-profile type people that you see in the trade magazines, guys being friends that maybe you didn't realize they had crossed paths. Like, I don't know, Lil Baby and James Harden. I didn't realize they were buddies. Maybe that's just because I don't really know much about Lil Baby. I couldn't name you one of his songs. But the two of them were actually hanging out with Kanye West in Paris on Wednesday because I believe it's Fashion Week over there. And so, James Harden no longer in the playoffs. I guess he's not rehabbing right now, which I don't know. I feel like maybe you should at least pretend you are and not be appearing at Fashion Week, but whatever. Yesterday, it was just Harden and Lil Baby, and they were in the car. Police apparently smelled the marijuana.
Uh-oh.
They pulled them over. They found 20 grams, apparently with Lil Baby's. So Lil Baby was, arrested and detained. James Harden, however, not detained. He was patted down, but they did release him. The NBA has yet to say anything. And for those wondering, no, marijuana is an illegal substance in France. So the police have every right to do this. But this is not the way you want to start an off season, James Harden.
No.
Your circle of friends. I don't know how good of friends you are with this guy, but don't let your friends be the ones that get you in trouble. Right?
Yeah. Well, and I saw the video of James Harden sitting there at a fashion show in Paris this week. He looks big again. I mean, he's only been out of the playoffs. Could he have gained 10 pounds already eating burgers since he's been out of the play? He looks big once again.
Yeah, I don't know what he's eating over there in Paris. Maybe he's on like a food tour.
Weed gives you the munchies. Maybe he's had a lot of Doritos, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
It was just one of the stranger stories to I didn't realize Harden was such a fashionista. He, I know, is signed to Adidas, but I guess he was wearing some really high-end brands, Balenciaga, I believe, to some of the shows. I don't know, James. Get better friends or teach your friends a lesson. Just, if you're going to do it, but don't bring it to Paris during Fashion Week, where we could get caught and where there are cameras literally everywhere to capture our every move, especially when you're hanging out with a guy by the name of Kanye West. There you have it. Today's Salty Shakedown.
Outstanding, spectacular, salty shakedown as always, Shannon. And it is a little, granted, he's a gazillionaire. He can do whatever he wants. He's earned that right. But if I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, you bring up a great point. Shouldn't you be kind of rehabbing? Shouldn't you be kind of focusing on, and the finals are still underway. And maybe I'm spoiled because I'm a Spurs fan and I saw, Tim and Tony and Manu and David Robinson behave a certain way in the offseason. But I agree on every level, especially getting popped by the cops, even though he got away without getting charged for weed with Lil Baby. Just not a good look in general this week for Mr. James Harden.
I think if you want to take the really salty route, it's like, oh, so you're glad you're not in the finals because you were able to attend Paris Fashion Week.
Yeah.
Kind of like LeBron. I mean, like, well, at least now you can promote your movie.
Yep. James Harden. Wow. And that experiment again, Brooklyn Nets, they're 0 for 1 with that big three. And granted, there were injuries, but Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, how's that gonna work? What are they gonna do next season? It's gonna be very, very fascinating. Also fascinating, while James Harden is in Paris, our good friend James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Vegas. How does James Allen do Vegas? And did he stay up all night to do this interview that's coming up, or did he get some sleep? We'll find out. James Allen, our good friend from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We'll talk football, but we'll also talk Vegas with James Allen next. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler making the show go. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. I need to email, which I haven't done yet, these spots. Okay, now. Oh, that's loud. Why? What? That's my Nancy Kerrigan. Why? Why? Some of you will get that. Most of you won't. Why? Thank you. Nancy Kerrigan, who was on Dancing with the Stars and did well. Once known as America's sweetheart, Nancy Kerrigan. Of course, I'm team Tanya Harding. I find Tanya Harding very entertaining. Wonder where she is now. Wonder what Tanya Harding is up to. I aspire to have her on the show one day because you got to have goals. Let's see. There's that. Walter Pasacreta. Wally says, I have a steel pipe. Thank you for the Jeff Gillooly reference and understanding. Wally, we got to get you back on the show, man. The great Walter Pasacreta is among us. Aren't the Mets playing very well this year? Certainly compared to the Yankees. Walter, a Mets and a Jets fan. All right, I am going to get some ice for my iced tea. Because you can't have iced tea without ice. Walter Pasacreta and Dave Ayler both in here. It's amazing. Let's see if send it one more email here. Where is that? Let's see. Where'd that go? Come on. There it is. Is that it? That's it. There's Tracy. Let's see. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I just sent it. Okay, thanks. All right. Yeah, Wally, but they're long breaks, but they're long segments. They're long, like 22-minute segments instead of a 7-minute segment. Plus, there's all kinds of sports update at the top. There's sports packages. But yeah, comparatively speaking, they're kind of long. Woo! Woo, woo. James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame going to join us. But yeah, Wally, I'd love to get you on the show next week if you're available. Let's talk. Here we go. Still pretty rainy outside. I'm looking at a live shot on Fox 29. Quite rainy outside locally in San Antonio.
Now, Chris Duel.
The weekend is upon us. Looks like it's starting out as a pretty rainy weekend in Austin, in San Antonio, across the great state of Texas. But hey, it's the weekend. It's July. We are on the cusp of the football season. Shannon Salty Sweeney, as always, on board. It's the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler making the show go. And when it's rainy in Texas for the weekend, one of your options is get out of Texas. Go somewhere where it's not rainy. Let's see, go somewhere where there's fun, entertainment, music, adult beverages, shows, gambling. Las Vegas. We like to check in with our good friend from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, James Allen. There's his walk-in music. And Shannon, when I heard yesterday James Allen is in Las Vegas, I know there's a 2-hour time difference. So right now it is the 6:00 hour in Las Vegas. I said, there's no way James Allen is going to answer the bell and be awake to do this segment from Las Vegas. But here he is, live and direct from Las Vegas. And you know what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, James Allen. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. It's very early here, that's for sure. But when it comes to the Hall of Fame of the NFL, you have to answer the bell. As the fellow players tell me, NFL stands for not for long if you don't perform. So I'm here.
James, be honest. You haven't gone to sleep yet. You'll be going to sleep after you talk to us this morning.
My son has a big track meet up here, and we had the trip from Heck yesterday to get here, and we made it to a steak restaurant reservations last night, hung out, played video games online, and I think we were both in bed by 10:30 our time or 12:30 your time. We were both passed out.
Wow.
Yeah, we're pretty benign night last night.
Okay, now you got to tell us, why was it the trip from hell? Did airlines get you stranded somewhere? Why was it the trip from hell from San Antonio to Las Vegas?
The airline, we got up there in the morning in San Antonio to kind of go through it quickly, and they said it's a 1 hour delay. It was like a 6 hour delay. We're sitting in the airport, and just no sleep. And then we get there, we had to wait on tarmac for 45 minutes, and they couldn't find our luggage. And we were dragging. We took like a 45-minute nap, and then went to a phenomenal steak restaurant that they had hooked up for us, and that was the highlight of my first night in Vegas.
So it's a track meet for your son. Your son has a track meet in Vegas. What's that all about?
He's kind of qualified for some national things. He's qualified for the AAU Olympics just recently in the shot put, and he's trying to get some more points and credits. So there's a big track meet up here in Las Vegas. It's actually later tonight. It was earlier, but the heat up here is like 117, 118. And so they pushed it to 7:00 Vegas time. So the big shot puts tonight for him.
Now, if you're there long enough, James, will you be doing some gambling or even some sports betting on these NBA finals?
No sports betting. My son and I tried to gamble. We were wearing our suits and trying to look like decked out, aka Rain Man kind of look. And my son's only 18, so we tried to go to gambling tables a couple times. And that didn't work for us, and I'm not going to do it without him. So there'll probably be no gambling this trip. We're going to several shows and dinners together, and that's about it. Just kind of a father-son time.
Well, and James, I was telling Shannon earlier, I, over the years, have been just destroyed gambling in Las Vegas, losing everything. And I found out the hard way. I'm not a good gambler, and I'll win at first and then go, okay, it's going to be a good trip. And then I'll start losing and I'll go, but wait a minute, I was up just 2 hours ago. I can get this back. I can get back on a roll. Let me go to the ATM and withdraw some more money so that I can turn this slump around. It's just been a nightmare. So now My wife and I, when we go to Vegas, we don't even gamble at all. We go to the shows. We love, especially being Beatles freaks. We go see the Cirque du Soleil Beatles Love Show at the Mirage. So when you gamble, James Allen, are you blackjack, roulette? What are your gambling games of choice when you do gamble?
Well, as you know, Chris and Shannon, I mean, I gamble for a living, right? I'm a commercial real estate developer by trade, and so I take. It's a long story. I hooked up with this guy who was like a professional bookie a long time ago. I met him in Vegas with a bunch of investors, and I in blackjack. Everybody thinks they know all the moves, but I try to find a single, double deck, which is hard to do in the strip, blackjack, and again, it's not illegal, but it's kind of a counting thing. And I've been pretty successful not to do anything crazy. But if obviously, if you want the big money, you got to go to craps. But I stay with the blackjack. As my mentor told me in gambling, they don't build billion-dollar hotels on winners in the middle of a desert. So that's my game of choice, just to do, just kind of hang out. But if I wanted to be a part of the action, I would play craps. The problem is I play the dark side. Nobody likes you. So when I do, I just play blackjack and just hang out.
James, we are 4 weeks out from the Pro Football Hall of Fame game, inductions, all of that good stuff. What's it been like for you as you prep for this event? I know we talked last week about you being honored with that room that now owns your family's name. But what's the preparation on your side look like as fans of football just get excited that the season's finally going to be here?
Well, everybody's calling to try to get tickets because kind of the COVID scare is somewhat diminished, mostly diminished psychologically, and we just can't. I mean, I have a real famous person out in Hollywood, Beverly Hills, been a long time friend of mine, and he called and I would do anything for him. And he said, "Man, I tried every connection. I can't get within 2 hours of a hotel of the event," and it's been crazy. Also working with the commissioner and all of the inductees, which there's a lot in their families, has been very logistically challenging, but also very welcoming. All the stories we're getting with the families and grandmothers and coaches and elementary coaches. So it's a blessing. It's a lot of work, though, that we're putting in right now, trying to coordinate. And the NFL is doing, as they always do, Commissioner Cadell, who's on the board, very active with Troy Vincent and everybody up in New York. We're working some long hours to coordinate everything for make the experience for the fans and also for all the inductees.
And of course, as Shannon mentions, that Pro Football Hall of Fame game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers will be August 5th at Benson Stadium in Canton, Ohio. And James, you know this better than anybody, but just to get your thoughts on it and for our listeners, because of COVID in 2020, there was no ceremony, there was no game. So, this is kind of a double whammy, big weekend celebration coming at the Pro Football Hall of Fame with not only the enshrinees, the class of 2020, but the class of 2021. And in addition to the Dallas Cowboys playing in that game, 3 major Dallas Cowboy legends going into the hall: head coach Jimmy Johnson, defensive back Cliff Harris from the Tom Landry era, and of course, number 88, Drew Pearson, wide receiver from the Tom Landry era. Because they're combining the two classes, because we missed 2020 for so many events, including the Pro Football Hall of Fame. In your experience, James, all your years being on the board and being with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, is this maybe the most anticipated Canton, Ohio weekend for the Hall?
Yeah, there's no question. Even national media and everyone else is picking up on that. This is, I don't know how to, I don't really have an analogy in my pocket, but it's kind of like several Super Bowls combined. I think the commissioner kind of alluded to years ago, the 50th anniversary of the Hall of Fame was huge. And then the 100th anniversary was last year, didn't happen. So the commissioner and the Hall of Fame have really, I'm really excited. Hopefully my parents' health will stay up and make it because this is going to be, if you could go to any Hall of Fame event, this would be the year to go.
Well, on top of everything else, we now know that the Hard Knocks crew will be there because the Dallas Cowboys will be featured this season. Are you going to be prepared to be on camera? Do you think you'll get on camera since you are pretty close to Jerry Jones at times for those board meetings? And will it be any more complicated than what's already going on with everything they've got this year?
Well, Jerry, there isn't a better person for brand and marketing, and I mean this not as a swipe because he sits by me. He's been nothing but nice to me. It doesn't need to be. However, even after firing Jimmy Johnson, which he's kind of finally admitted was a mistake, and then the Cowboys really haven't done well since then. Yet he makes that brand number one, and he does it for marketing and doing stuff for Hard Knocks. I don't know. I doubt Hard Knocks will be in the board meeting, but knowing Jerry, maybe that could happen. I do get to go on the field before the game, and I should stay down during the game, but I have a lot of guests. So maybe you'll see, a passing shot of me on the camera. That's about as good as I'm going to get to being on TV.
Well, and that's a great dynamic to talk about as we talk with James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, who is up early in Las Vegas this morning as it's 6:17 in the morning in Las Vegas as we speak. But Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson, James, I mean, any football fan who has paid attention knows their history. So successful when they were together with the Dallas Cowboys. They go all the way back, obviously, to that 1964 Arkansas national championship team. Famously, there's that football team photo when they won the national championship back at Arkansas. And if you look, you can see both Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones there as players. So obviously their history goes way back. And of course, the apex of their history was as owner and head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, winning those 2 Super Bowls quickly once Jerry Jones took over ownership of that football team. And yet, I know, as you mentioned, James, Jerry kind of publicly, reluctantly seemingly admits that maybe that was a mistake to end that partnership on the Cowboys between the two of them. Do we have any sense of what the relationship actually is and what it might be like? I mean, I got to believe they're going to cross paths more than once that weekend in just about 3 weeks in Canton, Ohio. How do they get along? Do you have any firsthand knowledge of that?
It was kind of tough. Jimmy's a tough guy. I mean, Jimmy was a tough football player. Most people don't know he was phenomenal. He was a tough like a Ditka player. He's won 3 rings, different rings. He's won in college. His confidence and stuff is pretty strong. I will tell you that Jerry, as he tried to do with a lot of people he fired and everything else, he's tried to come back and talk to them. At his being Jerry Jones's Hall of Fame speech, he had asked Jimmy Johnson to be up there on a chair, and without taking up too much of your radio time, if you watch it, everyone was shocked he kind of did this, and he said that him and his wife, who've been together forever, sweethearts all their lives, said, my wife lets me, I'm a crazy guy. I'm an oil wildcatter. I bet it all. And we bet everything we had on the Cowboys, which they did, everything money they had. And he said, we're finally winning, we're killing it. And he said, the biggest fight we ever got into, and he wasn't trying to be funny, and David Pan to his wife was, and she's nodding her head, is when she heard on the radio that Jerry Jones fired Jimmy Johnson right after winning another Super Bowl. And basically he said, my wife came home and said, Jerry, the problem, I love you to death, but the problem with you is when everything's going good, you have to knock it out so you can be in the middle of it. And he said that. And he kind of made a joke, I wish Jimmy Johnson hadn't resigned. And that's about as good as it. Jimmy laughed about it, and, they hugged. So they won a bunch of Super Bowls together. And Jimmy's Jimmy's had a successful career, but I would think it's a love-hate. It's just kind of a respect. They go back to Arkansas, so I've never seen them anything exchange any bad words.
James, Hall of Famer Kurt Warner is getting his own movie made about his life called American Underdog. The trailer was just released this week. Now, with all the knowledge you have of all the other Hall of Famers, is there a guy that you can think of off the top that also deserves the Kurt Warner treatment and a story about his life on the big screen?
God, Kurt's, if you know his story, I mean, it's what do they say? It's the greatest story that should have been. To reach it at the Hall of Fame level, there's a ton of football stories. I kind of like Jim Kelly's story. Just everything and losing all the Super Bowls, and then his son, he lost his son early in life, and then literally, when I say battling cancer, I mean he willed himself, and he showed up to every event. He showed up to Hall of Fame, just couldn't even move. And there's a lot behind his story, and going to, he went to the USFL, and everywhere he went, he had reasons to quit, and always did with a smile on his face. I mean, he lost at the Super Bowls, and I don't know. I like Jim, but Kurt Warner's story is pretty. I mean, there's some great stories people made in the NFL that should have been there, but to make it to the Hall of Fame and what his career. There's even a story that Brett Favre talked about where Kurt Warner even showed up for a camp, and he didn't want to. He was too scared to throw a football. Originally, and so he's, as you said, he's stacking groceries late in life, and just through a chain of bunch of injuries, and it really is I can't remember the coach's name. I'm forgetting his name. I'm seeing his face because it's too early here. He was at the camp, and the coach said they were down to just some backup quarterback, and the coach just said, well, is Dick Vermeil. And Dick Vermeil told them and said, guys, it's y'all's decision who you leave as the last quarterback, but that guy's got character for days, but leave it to you. And that's, other than that was his last shot. So just little tiny stuff like that. And it's tough to beat Kurt's stuff, but I think Jim Kelly has
Hey, Taro.
a person who has persevered throughout his career with death of kids and handicaps and everything else, and he just smiles and he keeps showing up.
Yeah, so many great stories, and you just told a few of them right there, James Allen. These Pro Football Hall of Famers, and man, I love the Kurt Warner story myself as well. I mean, if that guy just would have made it to the NFL at all after bagging groceries after college and playing in the Arena League for the Iowa Barnstormers. I mean, just if he'd have made an NFL roster, that would have been a remarkable story. But he goes on to win a Super Bowl and go to back-to-back Super Bowls with the St. Louis Rams. Only lost to Brady in a late in Brady's first ever Super Bowl, and then goes back to another Super Bowl with the Arizona Cardinals and makes it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I agree. That's one of the most remarkable football journeys in the history of the National Football League. I absolutely love it. Finally, James, you mentioned your son doing the shot put tournament tonight at 7. We always talk about athletes, how they get ready for competition. I would imagine there haven't been a whole lot of 7 p.m. shot putting competitions for your son. What does he do throughout the day here to kind of calm his nerves and stay focused and be ready to compete tonight at 7:00 in Las Vegas?
Well, he's so quiet, and I get that. I was the same way. And so last night I kind of said, they moved it back because of the heat index down here. We got all day. What do you want to do? And he's just like, he can't work. He doesn't want to work out, which is his big thing. I said, well, they have a great pool. We can hang out there, and we just can't get you sunburned. He goes, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. I think he said he may just want to take some tours or something like that, but he really to get his mind going off. So I think we're gonna, doing the touristy thing, or I tried to say, hey, we can take helicopters to Grand Canyon. He said he wants to just drive around Vegas. He said he's never been here, so I think it's gonna be something very benign because he just doesn't want to. He wants to be distracted and do nothing exciting. So that's kind of where we left it last night at dinner. So we'll see what happens. But we don't have a lot on the agenda. I think the next couple of days we're staying behind to go to shows and everything else. And that's what he's excited about. Then he wants to do more active things. But right now he just wants to kind of stay in his little corner.
Do you you mentioned shows? Do you know what shows you're going to yet? Can you name any of the shows you're going to, or do you know yet?
No, we had to do a heads up. Vegas is back, guys. I'm telling you. We fortunately I had to make some connections. It's very crowded here now. We're going to Shin Lin, who won America's Got Talent on the Magic Show Saturday night, and then Sunday night we're going to go see Chris. He's been here a long time, Chris Angel.
Nice.
Yeah, he likes magic, so we're doing that Saturday night, and Sunday night we're going to Chris Angel and going to some nice steak dinners before that, and give him a lot of protein, and that's our exciting Vegas trip so far.
Sounds fantastic. James Allen, best of luck to your son later today, this evening, in the shot put competition. I hope he does great. And I know he's an amazing athlete. And as you mentioned, just AAU and Olympic possibilities down the line for him. James Allen from the Pro Football Hall of Fame, getting up way early Las Vegas time to join us this morning. James, outstanding as always, sir. Best of luck to your son in the shot put competition tonight, and have a great weekend in Las Vegas. We always enjoy it.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Shannon. And thanks for my favorite music stylist. Y'all have a great weekend.
All right. Dave Ayler with the walk-up music for James Allen joining us from Las Vegas. As we roll forward, we will take a look at everything we need to get ready for the weekend, the NBA Finals, as Milwaukee will try to get back into this series over the weekend. And we'll talk a little Olympics as well. In fact, they're in Las Vegas. Coach Greg Popovich and Team USA. Well, I should have mentioned that to James Allen. That's what they should try to go watch. I think tomorrow is the exhibition in Vegas between Team USA and Nigeria. So we'll talk some Olympics, we'll talk some NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA Finals, and more. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler making the show go. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. John Williams, I do not have a microphone foot pedal. Taro Kotani joining us from Tokyo. Taro, I saw your Facebook post, man. Taro had tickets to see Olympic basketball. He was certainly going to see Patty Mills play for Australia. Yeah, he's way cool. Yeah. And he leads an amazing life. You know, I mean, I don't even know who the person was from Hollywood who wanted tickets. I mean, but he's got amazing friends as well. So anyway, Taro had tickets to the semifinals. Almost certainly he was going to see Team USA. He's a big Spurs fan, so he would have seen Patty play for Australia. He would have seen Coach Greg Popovich almost certainly in the semis, coach for Team USA. And now we find out this week that they're not allowing any spectators, which I'm so sorry, Taro, for that, for you.
I want to take a moment to thank you for the good job you're doing with R&R Auto Glass.
Oh, good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So they're happy at the moment?
Well, they went ahead and reduced for an additional 12 weeks. So
Fantastic.
Take it while you're in the break. And thank you again, sir.
And again, I'm happy to, and I think we should. It's the right thing. It's so easy to go shoot a video and put it out. And we can do that every 12 weeks and every, is that a quarter? I don't even know if 12 weeks is a quarter.
13 weeks is a quarter.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
I mean,
that's nice.
so I'll do that again.
Great.
In a month or two.
Thank you very much,
So,
sir.
okay. Thank you. Thanks for everything. Yeah, you're right, John. Patty Mills, the flag bearer for Australia. That is so cool. Quite an honor for Patty Mills. And Don Harris, him being the flag bearer is bigger on even another level because as an Aboriginal person, and they used to call them Aborigine, but they're now called Aboriginal in Australia as an original native person. His family and those people have undergone such prejudice over the years, for him to ascend to where he has to be the flag bearer for Australia is huge. Don Harris wrote very eloquently about that on Facebook earlier this week. Chad, is that right? I hope the Bucks get back into this series. Chad Shields saying the Bucks are still undefeated at home in the playoffs. I think, let's see, they were down 0-2 to Brooklyn. You may be right. Let me see if I can pull up Bucks. Okay, I'm seeing here that the Hawks beat them in Milwaukee. Let me take a look at that. Yeah, the Hawks beat the Bucks in game 1 at Milwaukee, 116-113. So the Bucks are not undefeated at the Fiserv Forum. Here we go. You can dance with yourself. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. Playing a little dancing with myself. And on a rainy weekend, maybe you stay indoors, dance with yourself. Nothing wrong with that. Lots going on this weekend, including a resumption of the NBA Finals. The Milwaukee Bucks need to win both games at the Fiserv Forum if they are to get back in this series. Phoenix, we talked about it. They get the win last night in Game 2 over the Bucks, 118-108. So the Suns take the 2-0 lead there. As I mentioned, Shannon, I'm such a freak. If I can find it, there's an exhibition game between Team USA and Nigeria tomorrow in Las Vegas. I mean, that's got to be somewhere, right? That's got to be on ESPN2 or NBA TV or somebody's got to stream it, right? I mean, you know,
You would think.
There are summer league games on the internet and G League games. So USA Nigeria with Kevin Durant playing has got to be on, right?
Yeah, with all the streaming platforms, there's no reason it shouldn't be.
Okay. So that's one of my missions this weekend is find that. It's got to be there somewhere. So it's funny you mentioned who was it with the Louis Vuitton bag? Oh, that was that Michael Irvin who had a Louis Vuitton bag stolen and
necklace in it.
Yeah, the necklace. Apparently, Louis Vuitton is partnering with Wilson to make a new designer collectible basketball. It's the LV times NBA basketball. It's a fashion basketball. You can buy it for $2,210. It's got the NBA insignia. It uses the same brown leather that Louis Vuitton uses for classic luggage. What? Who? I mean, I understand if you got money, you don't care, and you have no concept of money. Why would you want to buy a collectible $2,210 Louis Vuitton basketball?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Louis Vuitton. I've been known to venture into some of the stores when we made our Europe trips because it is cheaper over there. But like, they also sell shoes and things like that, and I take really good care of the pieces I do have, but I refuse to get any shoes because I'm like, why would I put all that money on the ground overnight?
Yes.
And to me, that's what a basketball is. Like you wouldn't ever dribble it, and if you do, then you have a level of money that I just can't even comprehend. And yeah, I've pulled up this collection now, and some of it is like their standard bags with the NBA logo. Interesting that they also though went with the original NBA logo and not the new diamond logo.
Ooh, and we talked about that yesterday. That's
They'll come
coming.
out with that later. The backpack's pretty cool. I mean, I could see some players sporting these around. It's definitely menswear.
Well, yeah, and you would use the backpack, and if you want a high-end Louis Vuitton, but a basketball, I mean, you're not going to. Are you going to play hoops? Are you going to play with the ball?
Still looking for that because
Okay.
that does it even bounce right? I mean, what are
Yeah,
we
how
talking
could it? If it's the same Louis Vuitton leather that they use on their bags, how could it bounce? Yeah, from this is the source was Maxim magazine and Maxim.com. For the hoops fan with a taste for the finer things in your life, we direct your attention to Louis Vuitton. Through a partnership with Wilson, they have come up with a designer basketball that is $2,210. It is the limited edition LVX NBA basketball, features the fashion house's icon monogram, the NBA insignia, and uses the same brown leather that Louis Vuitton uses for its classic luggage. That's just insane.
They do have a lot of kind of cool stuff, and they've got like a Louis Vuitton pendant that's the shape of the finals trophy. So they have some stuff that if I had that kind of money, I would maybe cop some of it. But
would you buy the
basketball?
basketball? Yeah.
No.
Good.
No.
And did we ever hear if Michael Irvin got his necklace back that was in the Louis Vuitton bag? I have not heard. So I'm assuming no. Yeah.
He's still pleading with fans to help him find whoever took it. My guess is that thing has been, specifically the necklace, broken apart and pawned off to various locations.
And a few lessons there. And apparently, for those who didn't hear the story, Michael Irvin was signing autographs. So this necklace that had a lot of sentimental value to him because some of the diamonds meant family members. So over the years, he had this very special diamond necklace constructed to commemorate, I guess, his kids and family members, which is
family and football, he said.
Okay, which is nice. But so a couple of things. One, it's a diamond necklace. You got to be very careful with that in public. So number two, he put it in his Louis Vuitton bag, and then he was signing autographs. So he set down the Louis Vuitton bag to sign autographs, and somebody made off with the Louis Vuitton bag. To me, the multiple lessons, Shannon, if you've got a diamond anything, in this case, a necklace that certainly has sentimental value, you got to be extra careful where you wear it in public or how you take care of it in public. Secondly, and I'm sorry we live in a society where you got to know this, but if you've got an expensive bag, like a Louis Vuitton bag, you set that thing down in an airport or a mall or somewhere to sign autographs, it's probably going to be lifted and taken away.
Yeah, I imagine the person who took it recognized that it was his bag because he probably watched him put it down and thought, he's probably got a wallet that's got some coin in there. Let me go ahead and take both of these things. And then the necklace was a surprise. And I don't know much about Irving's financial situation, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say he could maybe create another one.
True. Yeah. And maybe be more careful. Yeah, this time. Dave Ayler, earlier in the show, Shannon told us that this is National Collector Car Appreciation Day. You were talking about who was it who came in with the cool Impala, the 59 Impala? Devin Booker is arriving at Suns games now with pimped out classic cars. So there's that. It is also National Sugar Cookie Day, which I think is a little much. I mean, cookies, first of all, who doesn't like cookies? But cookies are one thing, but sugar cookies, it's like the whole point is to make it a sugar cookie. I don't know.
Add a little bit of cinnamon on there and call it a snickerdoodle.
A snickerdoodle. Is that a thing? A snickerdoodle?
You never had a snickerdoodle cookie?
I've never heard of a snickerdoodle.
I literally named, when I was in 7th grade, one dog Snicker and the other Doodle.
So it's a thing. Snickerdoodle. Dave, you be the arbiter here. Have you ever heard of a snickerdoodle?
Sure.
You have.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I have led a very sheltered life.
Get them in the break section.
I had no idea.
Make them there.
So the greatest cookie ever, is it a snickerdoodle, a sugar cookie, a chocolate chip cookie, or an oatmeal cookie? Or is there a cookie I'm not that doesn't immediately come to mind as the greatest cookie ever?
Nutter butter?
Ooh, nutter butter.
Yeah, good like peanut butter chocolate cookie.
Ooh, yeah.
I obviously, with the naming of my dogs, I have to say Snickerdoodle.
Snickerdoodle. Very nice. A chocolate chip cookie with like big like white chocolate, melty white chocolate chips in it. It's pretty good. I do like the peanut butter connection though.
Yeah,
So
peanut butter cookies are pretty great.
woo.
I'll pretty much eat a cookie as long as it doesn't have raisins or any nuts in it.
Not even macadamia nuts. Macadamia is kind of cool.
I like macadamia. I did cotillion growing up, which was awful. And I'm like fourth grade, and there's these little boys, and all the girls are taller than them at this point, and they're trying to teach everyone manners. And so we go, like, they partner us up, and we go, and he pulls the chair out, and they're supposed to go get us a cookie because they're gonna serve us because they're gentlemen. And I'm like, anything but raisins. No raisins. No. And he brings me back
Fair
a
enough.
no raisin cookie.
Oh,
Like, I thought they were chocolate chips. I was like, this is the end of the line for you, bud.
exactly.
I need a new partner.
Be a little more observant. That's not a chocolate chip. Those are raisins. Wow. Back to sports for a moment here as we get closer to the top of the hour. I'm looking at TMZ.com and TMZ Sports, a tennis star out of Australia who was going to be in the Olympics. And I don't know this guy. Maybe I should know my tennis better. Nick Kyrgios, Kyrgios. Kyrgios. He's pulling out of the Olympics. He was going to play for Australia in the Olympics, but he's pulling out because he does not want to play in empty stadiums. He's saying, I just won't go. If there's no fans to watch me compete in the Olympics, I'm not going. Something, this doesn't pass the smell test, Shannon. There must be another reason why dude is not going to the Olympics.
Yeah, because as great as it is to have fans in the stands, most of your viewers from the Olympics are from television viewers.
Exactly. You've got a global audience.
As a whole, it's a small number of folks that aren't going to be able to watch you.
I agree.
It's a guy nobody's ever heard of, so I'm sure he's used to playing with nobody watching him.
Exactly. Thank you. And I mean, if you get to go to the Olympics and represent your country, and I know it's weird and there's no fans and there's COVID, but it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for a lot of people. I know some people go to multiple Olympics. And we were talking during the break on Facebook Live, Shannon and Dave, and it's come up this week on the show, but it's so cool. Patty Mills, spur from Australia. Patty Mills is the flag bearer. I'm going to look for that in the opening ceremonies. He's the flag bearer for Australia. And the sports director, I love the guy here in San Antonio for the NBC affiliate News 4, Don Harris, wrote a long Facebook post. What's interesting about that is Patty Mills and his family, they're Aboriginal. So in other words, they're kind of like native Australians, and Aboriginal people in Australia to this day are still, there's prejudice, they're discriminated against. Some of your hardcore racist Australians look at them as second-class citizens. So it's even more of a remarkable thing, and I would imagine it's going to be very emotional for Patty Mills to be the flag bearer for Australia, especially given his background and that, you know, his people have been discriminated against actually for centuries in Australia. So good for him. That's going to be kind of cool to see.
That would be cool. I'm curious. I've never paid that close attention to the flag bearers once after they've already walked through, because then they stand there while the rest of the ceremony takes place. And as a basketball player, your arms are pretty important. I don't want his arms to get tired.
Ooh, you're right.
Down, like, I think they have it in the holster where you can kind of rest it as he's walking, but he still has to hold it up with his hands. He's able to take it out of the holster and like rest it on the ground or pass it off to somebody else at some point.
It's a great question.
I mean, that's like an hours-long ceremony.
Yeah.
And then what if you have doesn't basketball start pretty early because it's like a tournament, so they have to start early?
Yes.
Play the next day, and you're like, oh man, my arm, I can't shoot that much today. Oh, did you work out? No, I just have to held the flag for 4 hours.
And
Flag.
Patty Mills, and he'll be interesting to watch in the Olympics. When he plays for Australia, he's kind of their guy. He's the man. He gets like 30 points and 12 rebounds typically for Australia. So
That's got to be something when you play in the NBA and you're known as a good player because you're obviously in the NBA, but then you go to play for some of these smaller countries or countries that have less representation in the NBA, and then all of a sudden you are the Michael Jordan of your country. And
exactly. Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. All right. Shannon, any final thoughts as we dive into this weekend? What's your big thing this weekend? What's the big thing on your agenda?
I don't want to jinx it, but I think Sunday it's not going to rain. So I'm going to be by the pool, hopefully, because I didn't get to over the 4th of July weekend.
Cool. I hope the weather gods cooperate. We're going to think positively and think that Sunday will be a pool day
Yes.
for you and all of us. I like that. Dave Ayler, what are your big weekend plans?
Doing yard work. Got to do some, my air conditioner's having issues. So I'll have the repairman out for that. Maybe the eye doctor. Whatever I feel like.
Very exciting weekend for you.
I'm already down on weekends.
Yeah, I got to go search for content on streaming. I got a week to wait for Space Jam, Shannon. So I got to.
I've been telling you, watch Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. All right, this is the week. I'm doing it this weekend.
Because season 2 starts in like 2 weeks.
I am starting Ted Lasso tonight, streaming. I'm serious. I'm doing it, and I will report back to you on Monday. Shannon, spectacular week. Have a great weekend.
You as well, sir.
Dave Ayler, love you. Great job. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. We'll be back on Wednesday.
Oh, beautiful. He'll blow us off on Monday, Tuesday, so we'll talk behind his back. Have yourself a great weekend. See you Monday.